Huh? How did you get in here? Oh, well, as long as you're here, let me answer the questions of the NF Geeks video challenge. Number one, what is your type? Short and curvy. You probably meant Myers-Briggs type. That's ESFP. And yes, I actually have taken the official Myers-Briggs type indicator, so it's been professionally confirmed. Okay, number two, what are you primarily interested in? Answering questionnaires on the internet via YouTube video. Okay, well, I guess that's not really my primary interest, but that changes. Like, I go through phases. Right now, I'm mainly watching a lot of old soap operas. That's been my primary interest. Which, I started watching soap operas when I was like 12 or 13, and mainly for the abundance of hot women. So really, I guess the primary interest would be the women, and soap operas is just sort of a means to an end. But they're great, like, emotionally compelling stories, which is why I want to create my own. I was thinking of doing like a radio drama. I'm working on that because I'm also a big fan of like old-time radio. So I'm in the process of like trying to assemble like a script and a cast and all that for something like that. So stay tuned, because who knows, I may actually do it someday. But anyway, that's currently what I'm interested in, but it doesn't mean that that won't change in a few weeks or months or something. How do you... I'm assuming this is how do you relate to your temperament. It actually says how to you relate. It's just... This whole thing is just grammatically terrible, which only goes back to prove my point in the video I did, refuting Mike's thing about the scholarchy, because I'm willing to bet that the dude that wrote this list of questions is a college graduate, whereas I'm not, and I think, I can speak and write in grammatically correct sentences. Anyway, that's a tangent. How do you relate to your temperament? Well, this is the point where I plug my own channel, the SP Spaz, because I actually talked a lot about this in several different videos. You can start with the one called SP Myth and Truth. It's a two-part video. The first one, I basically talk about all of the sort of stereotypes or myths about ESFPs, or SPs in general. And then in the second one, I talk about what really binds SPs together. And so as far as relating to my temperament, well, I relate to pretty much all of the major points of the temperament, with and I'll sort of rehash a little bit, I guess. Number one thing is sensation-seeking, freedom being our number one thing, action in the moment, the next action being a free variable. Most of these are out of David Kersey's books. He kind of hit on some major points of the temperament, and I relate to pretty much all of them. Getting self-esteem and self-respect from adaptability and audacity and artistry. Pride myself on being skilled at artistic stuff. And in my case, really, the label that he uses for SFPs in general, the entertainers, really fits, because I always seek to entertain people in everything I do, even something like this. So, I hope that you are entertained, and if you're not, well, there's something wrong with you. So, number 4, what got you interested in MBTI? Nothing. I am not interested in MBTI and never have been. Okay. Really, I guess the answer is I don't know, but I can sort of figure out that, like, the concept of personality types I got introduced to when I was about 20 years old, and I kind of put it in the back of my mind, but never completely forgot about it. At some point around 2008, sometime in the spring, I think, I was just fiddling around online like I usually am, and I happened upon one of those like online personality quizzes or something, and I took it, and it wasn't the first time I did one of those. It was probably like the 8th time, but who's counting? And it resulted in ISFP. And I was like, I read the description. I'm like, yeah, this sounds kind of familiar. I remember reading stuff about this before. But what happens is whatever it is that I'm interested in, I tend to like look and see if there's internet forums to discuss it, and I've always done that with, as long as I've been on the internet. So whether it was sports, whether it was TV or movies, music, whatever particular thing that I was into at any particular time, I would always be, I would look for forums of discussing that, and if it was something that had, a really active forum about the topic, then I would usually end up participating, being pretty active. Around 2006 or so, I got really into Doctor Who, the sci-fi TV show, and so I joined a Doctor Who forum, and spent most of the next 2 years, doing that and checking that forum every day and stuff like that. It wasn't the only thing I did, but it was a lot of it. So in '08, it had been a while. I'd been into Doctor Who, but I was sort of in that kind of shift period of looking for something else to be interested in. And when I say that, I don't mean like I was actively seeking something, like I was like, boy, better find something today. It was more just kind of happened. But this time, when I'd looked at stuff about personality types before, I never had thought that there would possibly be like actual like message boards, forums discussing that stuff. And I know that probably sounds funny to a lot of you watching this, that wouldn't occur to me. But honestly, like, I had no idea, besides maybe just like some college professor dudes or something, that there would actually be people wanting to discuss such things. So when I just kind of searched and said, hey, I wonder if there's, some kind of forum, for that, I happened upon what was then called MBTI Central, later renamed Typology Central, because the actual Myers-Briggs folks said they couldn't use MBTI Central anymore. I can sort of understand that, I guess. But anyway, I realized pretty quickly that there were very few SP types participating in that forum. And thus the light bulb went off at, hey, I've got an instant way to get a lot of attention here. And so I joined and started making posts, and it was like I was sort of this novelty circus item where people would start asking me questions, which is funny, because in general SP types are actually very common, but on websites devoted to discussing temperament and type theory, they're not very common. So I instantly had, a lot of people just showering me with attention like I was some test subject, asking me questions about how I do everything, and it was awesome. And gave me a lot of positive feedback and good energy and, all that great stuff. And when I started to get that, just by virtue of participating in that, I started to read more about it. People recommend books to me and things like that, and actually bought some of them. If you told me like a week before I joined that particular forum that I would have purchased books about this, I would have thought you were crazy. But now, like 6 or 7 books later, I am crazy. But that's not what the question was. Number 5, how has MBTI impacted your life? I lost my job, my home, my wife, my kids. I've been in prison for the last 17 years and only now escaped via a system of underground tunnels built by a clever INTP named Mortimer. Okay, I made that up. Really, I think the major way it's impacted my life is communication walls have been eliminated or broken down, at least. It's easier for me to communicate with people of other types, especially intuitive types, that I really didn't understand before. I knew quite a few intuitive types, and in some cases got along with them and admired them in many ways, but there were always certain communication barriers that we'd always hit that were kind of frustrating sometimes. And both my parents are N types. My dad's an INTJ and my mom's an INFJ. Very different from me. So you can kind of understand that, growing up there was some issues with communication and understanding each other. And it was with my mom, we've worked at it. It's pretty hard, but in recent years, we've had a lot of really good conversations where we've really, I think, made a whole lot of progress. And so that's really been one of the really cool things about that, is that it became just more than just kind of this interest where I got attention, and became something that actually helped me improve, the quality of my life and relationships with people. And that's really cool. I don't regret anything I've done that has led me to that kind of position, because it's made my life better, I think. And even in addition to communicating with other people, it helped me be, I think, more content with myself and easier on myself. I used to kind of beat myself up over repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And when I read some of the stuff about SPs and, SFPs, it started to be, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm not alone in some of these things. It's not just that I'm a dumbass. I mean, I am, but that in itself is not, the deal. Is that there's some really deep instinctual things that I have in me that kind of compel me in certain directions. It doesn't mean I'm locked into, certain behavior. I still have free will, but there's always going to be certain compulsions and tendencies that I'm going to have regardless of what, I want to do or believe in. And I've come to accept that, and I'm a lot more content with myself because of that. So anyway, I guess that's the major way MBTI has impacted my life. And it also, eventually led to me creating videos. So, and that's been a cool thing too, and getting a lot of like one-on-one interaction with people and doing video chats, sometimes even more than two people in chat, and getting to know people and talking about all this stuff, and just really learning a whole lot of things that I had no idea that I would, just a lot of avenues and things I never knew I would go down. Okay, number 6, show an object, book, possession, whatever you like to the camera. Whatever I like, huh? Yeah, I'm not going to violate YouTube's terms of service here, but, I didn't really, think about exactly. Oh, I got an idea. Hold on. If I can see if I can reach it here. All right. This is the DVD set of the TV show My So-Called Life, which aired in 1994 to 95. So, it's old, starring Claire Danes. Some of you might recognize her if you knew her from later stuff she did. The reason I decided to pick that is because I've been rewatching it recently, and I think it's a cool thing to show to a group of a lot of NFs, because the main character, I believe, is an INFP, and actually she sort of narrates the story, and so it's kind of an insight into the mind, and not just of NFs or INFPs specifically, but teenagers in general, because there's a lot of other types of people and characters that to me, it's the most accurate portrayal of teenage awkwardness that I've ever seen. And, looking at it now, I mean, I'm sure today's teenagers might think, some of the fashions are dated and things like that. But really, besides that, it's pretty universal. There's just a lot of things they cover on that show that are just human things, and especially teenage high school things that can sometimes be almost painful to watch, and yet extremely entertaining. I watch those episodes, and I have a constant smile on my face, and sometimes tears, because I think about, not only do I relive these characters and what they went through, but I also think about real people I've known that are similar in a lot of experiences I had and stuff. So it all kinds of comes rushing back to me. So it's a amazing experience, and I recommend the show to anybody who wants to watch that. Not just NFs, but. The character on My So-Called Life, named Rayanne, is ESFP, and probably the closest one of the characters that I most related to on TV shows. Now, in terms of what we were like at school, we're actually very different. But as I've talked about in some other videos, mentally, I'm right there with Rayanne. Just our choices were different, so we didn't end up in the same situations. But every time she ever talks about kind of like her view or her philosophy on anything, and kind of the way she looks at stuff, I'm like, that's me, in terms of what she says about stuff. Okay, so number 7, what are the greatest misconceptions about your type? that we're not 100% awesome. Now, I think the greatest one is that some people think we're all drunks or all drug addict frat boys who are and girls who going to end up in a gutter somewhere or you know passed out. They think we're all Lindsay Lohan, basically. Which I can kind of see why people would think that. I'm personally I'm very sad that Lindsay has never responded to my marriage proposal that I put on Facebook, but that's okay. I can get over that. But the thing I think, yeah, people think it's the stereotype ESFP is like it's party animal all the time and no responsibility and no morals and just crazy, drink, snort everything you see and just no principles of any sort. And that's obviously a misconception. Do ESFPs like that exist? Sure, of course. They get the publicity because they're the ones that make headlines. And if you had a choice to do a story, you're going to talk about Lindsay Lohan waking up passed out in a bar somewhere after punching somebody and high on cocaine, or are you going to talk about some random dude who is a teacher and goes home and watches Letterman and then goes to bed? Obviously the first one is going to be the more exciting one to people to talk about, but the second guy could definitely be an ESFP. So that's probably greatest misconception is that we're all just crazy drunks and not anybody that could possibly have any like substance to us in any way. Number 8, what are the limitation you experience as your own type? Yeah, another just poor grammar. I'm just really ashamed of that. Limitations, I think, kind of goes back to what I said about relating to the temperament, and when I talked about kind of easing up on myself, because the limitations are that my instincts are very much living in the moment and doing what feels good to me now. And so there are things that I'm never going to be that good at, or if I am, that I've got to work really hard to be good at it. The fact is, I remember a lot of music chart trivia, but I forget things like when the rent is due, stuff that you would think would be kind of basic, thing. But actually, that's another thing I could show you if I haven't thrown it away. I think I did throw it away for this month, unfortunately. But what I often end up doing to remind myself to pay the rent is I have this little table here that I usually eat on, and so whenever I go get anything from a drive-thru or get food out, I always take a bunch of napkins so that I have napkins for home. And what I'll end up doing is taking one of those napkins and taking like a marker or a pen and writing rent in big capital letters somewhere near the first of the month, and I'll stick it on my table in various places. Sometimes I'll do it at work. I'll do a sticky note at work and then that at home. So that I'll keep seeing it every time that I'm doing anything where it's like, oh yeah, okay, and then I see it again and it reminds me. And here's the thing, is that even when I do that, I still will wait to about the last possible minute, which is like the third of the month, to go put it in the slot, because then it's like, oh yeah, I guess I have to go do this now. So, and that's kind of generally my way of operating is, you talk about limitations. I honestly don't think that there's anything that's 100% a limitation, because I could do anything I wanted to, but there's always going to be things that are more difficult. And that's the thing, is that the things that I'm interested in, I will go 100% hardcore to the wall on whatever it is. Things that I don't have interest in, I will procrastinate and put off and do as little as possible of, and appear to be the laziest creature on the face of the planet. So there's kind of always that seesaw of things that I guess could be seen as a limitation. Yeah. Okay, and number 9. What is your ultimate dream endeavor? Wow, that's a great question. Now, when you say dream endeavor, I look at the word dream and I think you mean like something that's fantastical, like the wildest reaches of my imagination. Like, if I just consider all of the grand possibilities of the universe in one giant system of creation, and I think to myself, what is the ultimate experience that I could get in that realm? What could I just grab onto and experience that, would just be mind-blowingly incredible within that limitless, scenario that you've created in your question. And I think that I would make myself a character on the TV show One Life to Live and hook up with Natalie, on the character on there, because she is smoking hot. Okay, so this has been my contribution to the NF Geeks video challenge, and if you made it through all 20 minutes and something seconds of this, in fact, by the time I finish speaking, it's going to be 21 minutes. Anyway, then congratulations and thank you for watching me ramble about stuff. And I invite you to watch my other videos on the SP Spaz channel, because there's a lot more of this, me just rattling off stuff. But somewhere buried in there is things that could possibly be interesting. So if you can manage to make it through all the other nonsense, then you might learn something, or at least be entertained in some way. And if not, sorry, because you can't please everybody. Anyway, I'm out. See you later.